Janmadyasya yato niviyadi taratascha te swavidyaswara tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muyanti yatsuryaha tejo varimadam yata vinimayo yatra trisargomasha damna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dimahi. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma projita kaitravotra paramo minatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayon mulanam Srimad Bhagvatam Mahamuni Krite Kim va prayer Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridi Avarujate Tra Krite Bihi Sususabhistakshana, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam Pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhur aho raskabha vibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of C. Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantak Stohi Bhadrani Vidunati Suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nasta presu bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajastamo bhava kamaloba dayaschaye cheta etarinavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hridaya grantis, siddhyante sarvasamsaya, siyante jasya karmani, drishta evatmanishware. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the heart knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya and Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food. Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet, such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Chintamani Prakara Satma Sakalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susarabhira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvananta Aravinda Dalaytaksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Tribanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabham Adurlabham Atmavakto Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Rachayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yakshaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyoma Jastataiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patibhavitabhis Tabilya Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksadeva Hidesu Vilokayanti Shama Sundaram Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nana Vatara Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramaha Pramamyo Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti Kotisvasesu Vasadadi Vibhuti Benam Tad Brahmaniskalamanantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagaranda Satani Sute Trigun Yatad Vishayaveda Vitayamana Sattva Valambi Parasattvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Golokanamni Nijadamni Talejatasya Devi Mahesa Haritama Devi Mahesa Haritama Sutesu Tesu Tite Prabhavini Chaya Vihitascha Yena Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Shististati Pralaya Sadhava Saktireka Sadhana Bhaktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Sadhana Ichana Rupam Apiyasya Chachestate Sadhana Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Heto Yasambutam Apitata Samapaiti Karyat Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Deeparchadeva Hidasantanam Abhyapetya Deepayate Vivita Hetu Samanu Dharma Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nataha Vishnur Mahansa Hihayasya Kalavishesho Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Basvam Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha Sviyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanakarta Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Rajaha Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahi Gaganamambu Maruddhisascha Kalastatatma Manasitti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yachchak Sudesa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesha Tejaha Yasya Gyaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Dharmota Papa Nichayasrutayastapamsi. Brahmadikita Patagava Dayasta Jivaha. Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava. Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Ahosvakarma. Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajana Matanuti. Karmani Nidhati Kincha. Karmani Nidhati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam. Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti. Vatsalya Moha Gurgora Vasevya Bhavahai. Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Talmapurete. Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo. Druma Bhumish Chintamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam. Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivamsi Priyasaki. Chidalantam Jyotiparam Apitad Aswadyam Apicha. Sayatrak Shiradi Bihi Shravati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan. Nimesa Dakyo Vavrajati Nahiyatrapi Samaya. Bhaje Svita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokamitiyam. Vidantaste Santakshiti Viralachara Katipaye. Shri Shupanishadi Ki Jai Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vasisyate. Ishivaishamidam Sarvam Jatkinja Jagatyam Jagat Tena Taktena Punjitaha Magridaha Kisasvidanam. Kurvani Vakarmani Jiva Chek Chatam Samaha Ivam Twayi Nanyatitusti Nakarma Lipite Nare. Asuriya Namate Loka Andina Tamasavritaha Tamste Pritya Vigachanti Yeki Chatmahano Janaha. Anijadi Kamanaso Javio Nena Devam Apavam Pavama Sata Davato Nyana Teti Sistad Tasminapo Matavisva Dadati. Ta Dejati Ta Nejati Ta Dure Ta Advantike Ta Adantarasya Sarvasya Ta Dusarvasya Sabayataha. Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani Vanupashyati Sarvabhute Suchatmanam Tatona Vijagupsate. Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmeva Budvijanataha Tatrako Mahakaha Sukha Ekatvam Anupasyataha. Sa Prayagachukam Akayam Avnam Asnaviram Sudam Apapavidam Kavir Manisi Paribu Swayambhu Yatatat Yatoratan Vyadadach Jasvatipyaha Samabhyaha. Andam Tamaha Pravisanti Yevidyam Upasyate Tato Bhuya Ivate Tamo Yayu Vidyayam Rataha. Anya Devahur Vidyaya Anya Dahur Vidyaya Iti Susrumadhiranam Yenastad Vichichakside Vidyamcha Yasyastad Vidovayam Saha Vidyaya Miritum Tidva Vidyayam Ritamasnute Antanta Mahapravisanti Yesambutim Upasyate Tato Bhuya Vitetamo Yayasambutam Rataha Anyadevhur Sambhavat Anyadahur Sambhavat Iti Susrumadhiranam Yenastad Vichichaksid. I'm sorry. Sambutim Cha Vinasam Cha Yastad Vedapayam Saha Vinasena Miritum Tidva Sambutam Ritamasnute. Oh, okay. Iti Susrumadhiranam Yenastad Vichichaksid. Sambutim cha vinasam cha yastad vidabhayam saha vinasena minitum tidva sambutam ritamastate. Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pitam vakam tatvam pusamapavrinu satyadharma yadristaye. Pusanekase yamasuriya prajapatya vyuharasmin samaha tejo yate rupam kalyanatamam tate pusyami yosavaso purushaha sohamasmi. Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam sariram om kratos smarakritam smarakratos smarakritam smara. Om Agni Nayasupatara Yasman Viswani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yo Dasmas Juhuranam Ino Buyastam Tenama Utim Vedama Tatsa. So, starting tomorrow, we're going to just add a few more mantras from the Nectar of Instruction. Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 23. Asmat prasada sumukha kalaya kalesha iksva kuvamsa avitir yagurur nidese. Tistan vanam cha sa dayitanuja avivesa. Yasmin virudya dasakandara artim archat. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary expansions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikshvaku as the lord of his internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dasarat, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother, Ravana, who was very materially powerful, with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him, and was thus ultimately vanquished. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his brothers, namely Bharata, Lakshmana, and Satrugna, are his plenary expansions. All 4 brothers are Vishnu Tattva, and were never ordinary human beings. There are many unscrupulous and ignorant commentators on Ramayana who present the younger brothers of Lord Ramana as ordinary living entities. But here, in the Srimad Bhagvatam, the most authentic scripture on the science of Godhead, it is clearly stated that his brothers were his plenary expansions. Originally, Lord Ramachandra is the incarnation of Vasudeva. Lakshmana is the incarnation of Sankarsana. Bharata is the incarnation of Pradyumna, and Satrughna is the incarnation of Aniruddha. Expansions of the personality of Godhead. Lakshmi Ji, Sita, is the internal potency of the Lord and is neither an ordinary woman nor the external potency incarnation of Durga. Durga is the external potency of the Lord, and she is associated with Lord Shiva. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.7, the Lord appears when there are discrepancies in the discharge of factual religion. Lord Ramachandra also appeared under the same circumstances, accompanied by his brothers, who are expansions of the Lord's internal potency, and by Lakshmi Ji, Sita Deva. Lord Ramachandra was ordered by his father, Maharaj Dasaratha, to leave home for the forest under awkward circumstances, and the Lord, as the ideal son of his father, carried out the order, even on the occasion of his being declared the king of Ayodhya. One of his younger brothers, Lakshmanji, desired to go with him, and so also his eternal wife, Sitaji, desired to go with him. The Lord agreed to both of them, and all together they entered the Dandakaranya forest to live there for 14 years. During their stay in the forest, there was some quarrel between Ramachandra and Ravana, and the latter kidnapped the Lord's wife, Sita. The quarrel ended in the vanquishing of the greatly powerful Ravana along with all his kingdom and family. Sita is Lakshmi Ji, or the goddess of fortune, but she is never to be enjoyed by any living being. She is meant for being worshipped by the living being along with her husband, Sri Ramachandra. A materialistic man like Ravana does not understand this great truth, but on the contrary, he wants to snatch Sita Devi from the custody of Rama, and thus incurs great miseries. The materialists who are after opulence and material prosperity may take lessons from the Ramayana that the policy of exploiting the nature of the Lord without acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord is the policy of Ravana. Ravana was very advanced materially, so much so that he toured his kingdom, Lanka, into pure, that he turned his kingdom, Lanka, into pure gold, or full material wealth. But because he did not recognize the supremacy of Lord Ramachandra, he defied him by stealing his wife, Sita. Ravana was killed, and all his opulence and power were destroyed. Lord Ramachandra is a full incarnation with 6 opulences in full, and he is therefore mentioned in this verse as Kalesha, or master of all opulence. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikshvaku as the lord of his internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dasaratha, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother Ravana, who was very materially powerful with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So text 24. This also is dealing with Lord Ramachandra. Yasma adad udadir uda bayanga vepo margam sapadi aripuram haravad didaksho dure srihin mahita rosa susona dristya tatap yamana makararo raga naktra chakra. The personality Godhead Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red-hot eyes like those of Hara. Hara means Lord Shiva, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics, like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burnt by the heat of the angry, red-hot eyes of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead is every sentiment of a sentient being, like all other living beings, because He is the chief original living entity, the supreme source of all other living beings. He is the Nitya, or the chief eternal amongst all other eternals. He is the chief one, and all others are the dependent many. The many eternals are supported by the one eternal, and thus both the eternals are qualitatively one. Due to such oneness, both the eternals constitutionally have a complete range of sentiments, but the difference is that the sentiments of the chief eternal are different in quantity from the sentiments of the dependent eternals. When Ramachandra was angry and showed his red-hot eyes, the whole ocean became heated with his anger, with his energy, so much so that the aquatics within the great ocean felt the heat, and the personified ocean trembled in fear and offered the Lord an easy path for reaching the enemy's city. The impersonalists will see havoc in this red-hot uncertainty, or red-hot sentiment of the Lord, because they want to see negation in perfection. Wow. Negation in perfection. They want to negate the perfectness of Krishna. Let's read that again. Because the Lord is absolute, the impersonalists imagine that in the absolute, the sentiment of anger, which resembles mundane sentiments, must be conspicuous by absence. Due to a profound knowledge, they do not realize that the sentiment of the absolute person is transcendental to all mundane concepts of quality and quantity. Had Lord Ramachandra's sentiment been of mundane origin, how could it disturb the whole ocean and its inhabitants? Can any mundane red-hot eye generate heat in the great ocean? These are factors to be distinguished in terms of the personal and impersonal conceptions of the absolute truth. As it is said in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagvatam, the absolute truth is the source of everything. So the absolute person cannot be devoid of the sentiments that are reflected in the temporary mundane world. Rather, the different sentiments found in the absolute, either in anger or in mercy, have the same qualitative influence, or, in other words, there is no mundane difference of value between these sentiments, because these sentiments are all on the absolute plane. Such sentiments are definitely not absent in the absolute, as the impersonalists think, making their mundane estimation of the transcendental world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Godhead Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant, intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red-hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics, like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burnt by the heat of the angry, red-hot eyes of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, so there are many, many points here, and okay, there's one more. Okay, we'll keep that for tomorrow. So there are many points here, and one interesting, I'll just make a few of them. One interesting point is that oftentimes Hindus say that Radharani is expanded from Durga, and also Sita Rani is expanded from Durga, and Radha and Sita and Durga are the same. Have you ever heard that? No? You ever hear that? But here Prabhupada is clearly making the point that the Sita is the internal potency of the Lord, and is neither an ordinary woman nor the external potency incarnation of Durga. Durga is the external potency of the Lord, and she is associated with Lord Shiva. So, well, why do the Hindus do that? Well, first of all, they're being misled by their so-called gurus. And on the other hand, what they want to do is make a hodgepodge of all is one. It's based on Mayavad philosophy. They don't understand the difference between Krishna's internal energy and Krishna's external energy, and this thing and that thing. There's so many things they don't understand. But they don't want to understand because they want to make everything one, and in this way they think they're creating unity. But actually they're creating separatist philosophy. What is a separatist philosophy? Well, that was explained earlier, I think. Where is that? A separatist philosophy is trying to separate Krishna from his body, trying to separate Radharani from Krishna's internal potency, make everything one. And that separatist philosophy leads to atheism. So here it says also that the Hindus, they like to, or the Mayavadis, they like to separate Lakshman, Satrugna, and also Bharata, and say that they're just ordinary human beings, and Rama is a god. So that's another mistake that they make. And so we see that there's so many misunderstandings that are presented as the truth. And why is that? Because it's part of the strategy of creating all is one, or to create this separatism, like separate the Rama's brothers from him. So this type of jugglery of words and jugglery of ideas has created havoc in Hinduism. And they think it's creating unity, but actually it creates disunity, because those are false assumptions. So then again, why would Ravana attempt to kidnap Sita Devi, Rama's eternal wife? Because he is nonsense. He thinks that the strength of a man comes from having a beautiful wife. Well, a beautiful wife may be an inspiration for some men, but what does Lord Chaitanya say? Nadanam, najanam, nasundaram. Nasundaram means I'm not interested in beautiful women. Why? Because beauty is only skin deep, and one can be bewildered by it. So most men are bewildered by women, but those are only men who have the demoniac nature. The people who have demoniac nature, they think that they will be happy by exploiting the body of a woman. And therefore they're always looking for young and pretty women to victimize. But this is all based on false ideas, false sense of beauty, and false sense of what is pleasure. So this creates disturbance. It's only a disturbance when you have men that are running around trying to exploit women, and if they can't exploit them with their charm, they want to do it brutally in the form of rape and other things. And it's just created havoc. It's been there since the beginning of time also. So what comes into question here is how should one see things and understand them? So therefore Prabhupada is emphasizing over and over again that we must understand from Shastra, not from our material eyes or our material speculations and things like that. And this is a very important point It's most important in the life of a devotee. Otherwise, a devotee who does not understand the absolute necessity of following the parampara that one is initiated into. I mean, what's the point of initiation? It's to connect us to Krishna through the parampara and through the acharyas, and then to readapt our way of seeing things based on shastric evidence and Krishna's words, not speculation, and not with the eye of sense gratification and so forth. This is a major point, and this differentiates a devotee from a demon and a sense gratifier. So, to understand our reality through the prism or through the guidance of Srimad Bhagvatam, and what does Prabhupada say here? I'm going to read some interesting things. Like, for example, the whole concept of women is also misunderstood today. Like, for example, it says in the ninth canto, chapter 10, verse number 27, it says, "O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita." So this is Mandodari speaking to her husband, Ravana, who has just been killed and defeated by Lord Rama. And she's talking to him, although he's dead. But anyway, only his body is dead, right? And she says, "Oh, greatly fortunate one." Yeah, he was very fortunate. What was his best fortune? Being killed by Rama. You came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandran. Now, in the purport, it is very important. It says, not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. This is a huge statement. This defeats all, women's liberation, all that stuff, all that philosophy that is being taught today, even in high school and especially in college, women's liberation. This is all wrong. It's all going in the wrong direction. It doesn't make women happy. It makes them more vulnerable to be exploited by men. Where did this start from? It was started by men who wanted to have free sex, and they couldn't do it before because the system, even in Christianity and Islam, is too strict. It inhibits, let's call fraternizing between men and women in a loose basis. So therefore, in order to make a whole class of women available for being exploited, men came up with the idea of women's liberation. Everyone says, "Oh, it's the women that came up." No, it's the men that came up with it, and it's the men that permitted it. Why? Because they wanted to have free sex. Even women don't understand it. They think, "Oh, this is a wonderful thing that we get to vote, and we get to have equal status with men in all positions, and we can have easy divorce and easy abortions and this and that." And it's all misleading, and it's all been driven by demoniac men like Ravana type people, right? So, not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many do women know this? Are they being taught this? No. They think they can be powerful by being independent of men. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. So this is a common theme in Vedic literature. that women can become as powerful as Mother Sita. But how? Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of the 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. It is a moral principle that one should not be influenced by lusty desires for another's wife. Matravat paradarisu. An intelligent person must look upon another's wife as being like his mother. This is a moral injunction from Chanakya Sloka number 10. Matravat paradarisu paradravyasu lostravat atmavat sarvabhutesu yapasyati sapandita. One who considers another's wife as his mother, another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as if he would himself, is considered to be learned. Thus Ravana was condemned not only by Lord Ramachandra, but even by his own wife, Mandodari, because she was a chaste woman. She knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mother Sita. Well, here is the truth. It's not a bunch of hooey. This is a factual truth. And this is not taught to women. They're taught all this bogus nonsense in schools and in newspapers and articles. Like you have these women's magazines, you know, if you ever look at any of these girly what they call women's magazines, right? And they have themes like, well, you don't really cheat on your husband by having sex with another man. It actually enlivens your married life. They actually write, they have these women's psychologists that write these type of articles, right? And then you have these young girls reading this, you know, and you know, older girls also. And then they have all these lesbian movies and homosexual movies, this type of movie and that type of movie. And it's all glorifying what? Lust. The whole society is glorifying lust. In fact, if you're a lusty person, you're considered healthy. This was Freud's philosophy. Say, his thing was never repress your lusty feelings. You should gratify them. If you repress them, then you'll get sick. You'll get psychologically sick. But if you satisfy them, you'll be healthy. So everything is backwards. Everything is against the truth. See, and this ruins people's lives. Mandodari continues, O pleasure of the Rakshasa dynasty, because of you, the state of Lanka, and also we ourselves are now have no protector. By your deeds you have made your body fit to be eaten by vultures, and your soul fit to go to hell. This is his wife talking to him, his chaste wife. And she's talking to him after he's dead, right? After his body is dead. Purport. One who follows the path of Ravana is condemned in 2 ways. His body is fit to be eaten by dogs and vultures, and the soul goes to hell. As stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 16:19. Tamaham dvisata kruran samar sare naradamam. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Thus, the destination of godless atheists, such as Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, and Dantavakra, is a hellish condition of life. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, could understand all this because she was a chaste woman. Although lamenting for the death of her husband, she knew what would happen to his body and soul. For although one cannot see directly with one's material eyes, one can see with the eyes of knowledge. Pasyanti jnana chaksusa. In Vedic history, there are many instances of how one becomes godless and is condemned by the laws of nature. So you have two things in the Vedas. You have the path of success and you have the path of failure. Both are vividly portrayed in the Srimad Bhagvatam. You have to understand both so that you stay on the path of success and avoid the path of failure. Okay, so this is all very interesting because chastity has been taught since time immemorial, but today it seems to be something wrong. As if you have such idiots like Freud and others that downplay it and actually recommend lusty behavior. So there's a whole bunch of things about to show how the Vedic culture is diametrically opposed to all these so-called modern concepts. And the main thing is chastity. So let's take a look at this. chastity, yeah. Yeah, so let's look at the 9th chapter, 10th verse, 29th. Oh, we already did. So then, what? 9, 10, 29. We just, okay. No, we didn't do that one. Yeah. Yeah. We did 27 and 28. No, it was 28. So then, wait a minute. Let's see. There's something else here. Chastity. Okay, let's look at the Bhagavad Gita. First chapter, 40th verse. And it says, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vishnu, comes unwanted progeny. Purport. Good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. This is true today as it was back in 5,000 years ago. The Varnashram religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. Wow, that's a big statement. The chastity and the faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Chanakya Pandit, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy, so the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varnashrama system. On the failure of such Varnashrama dharma, naturally the women become free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged in at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. Well, now we see how important chastity is for women and for men. It's not just women. So how can we... okay, so now there's another point. And this is another big, big point. It's all about divorce. Let's take a look at 9.3.21. 9.3. 21. O unchaste girl, what is this that you have desired to do? You have cheated the most respectable husband, who is honored by everyone. For I see that because he was old, diseased, and therefore unattractive, you have left his company to accept as your husband this young man who appears to be a beggar from the street. So this is back to the history of Parasuram, right? And I mean Chayavana Muni, right? So, and this says, we read this, but we're going to read it again. This shows the values of Vedic culture. According to the circumstances, Sukanya had been given a husband who was too old to be compatible with her. Because Chayavana Muni was diseased, and very old, he was certainly unfit for the beautiful daughter of King Saryati. Nonetheless, her father expected her to be faithful to her husband. When he suddenly saw that his daughter had accepted someone else, even though the man was young and handsome, he immediately chastised her as asati, unchaste, because he assumed that she had accepted another man in the presence of her husband. According to Vedic culture, even if a young woman is given an old husband, she must respectfully serve him. This is chastity. It is not that because she dislikes her husband, she may give him up and accept another. This is against Vedic culture. But this is what family psychologists recommend. Usually when there's some, let's say, big argument between husband and wife, they go to a family psychologist, right? And what do they eventually suggest to the wife? They say, well, if you can't get along with your husband, you can get a divorce. Every time. You know, if it looks like your husband is not really able to satisfy you, well, you can get a divorce. Right? And in Washington State, there is no fault divorce. That means you don't have to have a reason for the divorce in this state. If it's just whimsically enters in your mind, I don't like this guy anymore, I want to get a divorce, the wife can do it. And oftentimes she can get a free lawyer, whereas the husband has to pay for the lawyer, right? And the lawyers are horrible because they milk the husband and the wife of all their money, right? And the divorce goes on and on and on and on. It can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? There are many examples of this. I know a whole bunch of people that are involved in this type of horrible situation. Okay. So, then one last, this is 9321, yeah. Is that 9320? Yeah, 9320 also. It says, okay, we just read 9320, so 9321. Sukanya, however, being very proud of her chastity, smiled upon hearing the rebukes of her father. She smilingly told him, my dear father, this young man by my side is your actual son-in-law, the great sage Jayavana, who was born in the family of Brigu. Purport. Although the father chastised the daughter, assuming that she had accepted another husband, the daughter knew that she was completely honest and chaste, and therefore she was smiling. When she explained that her husband, Chayavana Muni, had now been transformed into a young man, she was very proud of her chastity, and thus she smiled as she talked with her father. Now there's a very big point in this little purport. When you know that whatever rumor is going around about you is false, you have no reason to be afraid and no reason to be, let's say, intimidated. She was completely honest and chaste, and therefore she was smiling. See? So if you know you have not done anything wrong and you're being blamed or accused, there's no reason to be intimidated by it. You should not be afraid to stand up for your rights. Yeah. So, therefore, look what's happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years. All big men, you know, even ex-president Billy Clinton and and all these other big men, Epstein and Weinstein and all the Steins and so many other people have been revealed to be very low-class scoundrels that have exploited young women by their prestige and wealth. Even Bill Gates and so many others, so many politicians, so many movie stars, so many of these people, and big businessmen. And this is going on because they engage in this lusty behavior. They can't control themselves. So women get their revenge. And it's actually very disturbing because you see people that are like even presidents of the United States, generals, and people that you're supposed to be respectful of. And Bill Gates is another one. He was, for a long time, people were saying, well, all the others are bad. He's good. He turns out to be just as bad as the others. So then eventually you get to the conclusion of, well, how can we trust anybody? You know, so devotees have to follow the rules and regulations. Then they can preach. Then they're able to preach. So I remember one time I was preaching in Paris, and I was preaching to a group of Muslim men. Right? And when I said, in Krishna consciousness, there's no illicit sex, they looked at me like, are you crazy? He said, and then one guy challenged me. He said, you tell me the truth right now. Are you engaged in sex with your wife or not? And I said, no. He said, I can't believe that. Said, you only have sex to have children? He said, I can't believe that. And I think you're a liar. Okay? So you cannot be a let's say, potent preacher unless you actually follow the rules and regulations. Because we're going to preach, right? And when we preach no illicit sex, even in marriage, people are going to look at us and they say, wait a minute, this can't be true. And then they'll challenge you directly, you see. So to be a successful preacher, we have to follow the rules and regulations. The women have to follow it, and the men have to follow it. Then you have a successful society, and when you preach, your preaching is potent. Like Prabhupada was very potent because he doesn't mince his words. He says women have to be chaste, even if they marry a bad husband. Now who's the psychologists don't teach that. But Prabhupada, and then he also says, women are like children; they can be easily exploited by low-class men. Okay, so we just stop right there. This is a big subject. I might speak a little bit more about it tomorrow. Are there any questions?
We have heard so many powerful statements about chaste women, but within ISKCON, as we are hearing in the past, we are trying to change a lot of things from Prabhupada books about the fallen women and so many other things.
Yes.
So why not they highlight these things?
Because they want to water down the philosophy so that sense gratification becomes admitted. Why did men try and start women's liberation? They wanted to have free sex. And it got so bad, after the 1960s, when there was what's called a sexual revolution, the government started funding women who were divorced or not married so that they could have as many children, they can make more money by having children, but out of wedlock. So a lot of people got divorced so that the wife could get this free money from the government, and it ruined the family. And then many women had children like with 5 different men or 10 different men, and they were making children over and over again in order to get more money, and that way they could have an easy life. They don't have to work. This basically ruined the family especially in the black and poorer whites and blacks. It ruined their whole family life. Whereas before they were much more spiritually inclined. And blacks were very religious, and they still are to a certain extent. But this free sex and the rap music and all the sex themes in the singers' songs and things like that, and the movies and all that, it's ruined the family. And it's made women and young girls especially susceptible to being, taken advantage of. Nowadays, girls can start having sex when they're 10, 12, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, and especially in high school, and really bad in college. Even though the Christians have been trying to, counter all this bad publicity but then the Christians themselves, their leaders, many of them fall down and engage in all kinds of nonsense, just like the demons. So it's a very bad situation for women today. On the other hand, the women are glorifying it. And it's a big mistake. So why are they doing it? It's the same reason why men started the women's liberation movement. It's to let sense gratification be a norm, not something looked down on.
Within ISKCON, Maharaj, why we are not highlighting this more, like rather than changing Prabhupada words?
But Prabhupada highlights it. It's right there, right?
It's going other way around within devotees.
Because you have weak people who are in big positions. They want to change things so that there can be basically, in other words, what they want is no sex outside of marriage, but all the sex you want in marriage. This is what the Christians do too. The Christians, the Catholic Church also. You can have sex with your wife after her period, according to the Catholic Church. In Christianity, if you hear Christian preachers, they talk about, how good sex is when you're faithful with your wife. They preach about it in their radio and television sermons, So it's all to attract people. Well, it's trying to keep them faithful to one woman, right? And not have divorce. But they want to amplify sense gratification, how better it is when amongst husband and wife that are faithful to each other. It's unbelievable what you hear and see, and these things are going on. And this is just a copycat type of movement in ISKCON to water down Prabhupada's books. They say it's to improve the preaching in America. Okay. You want to read, chant?
Bhakati, Sadma, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati, Sadma, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati, Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Kevala Bhakati, Sadma, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati, Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Kevala Bhakati, Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Bando Mohi Sadma, Kevala Bhakati, 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 Sad
सावधानो होते
Bando mui savadana mate
যাহার প্রসাদে ভাই এ ভব তরিয়া যায়
Janar prasade bhai He bhavatoriya jai
কৃষ্ণ প্রাপ্তি হয়ে যাহা ভাইতে
Krishna prapti hoya te
গুরু মুখ পদ্ম বাক্য চিতেতে করিয়া আইখা
Guru Mukha Padma Bhagya Chitete Goriya
আর না করি হো মনে আশা
Arana Koriya Maneya Sa
শ্রী গুরু চরণে রতি ऐसे उत्तम गति
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati
যে প্রসাদে পুরে সর্ব আশা
Ye prasade pure sava sa
চক্ষুদান দিল যেই জন্মে জন্মে প্রভু সেই
Chakshudana dila jai janmi janmi prabhu se
দিব্য জ্ঞান হৃদয় প্রকাশিত
Divya gyani de prokashito
দিব্য জ্ঞান হৃদয় প্রকাশিত
Divya gyani de prokashito
প্রেম ভক্তি যাহা হইতে অবিদ্যা বিনাশ যতে
Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasa jate
বেদে গায় যাহার চরিত
Vede gaya janara charito
বেদে গায় যাহার চরিত
Vede gaya janara charito
শ্রী গুরু করুণা সিন্ধু অধম জনর বন্ধু
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
শ্রী গুরু করুণা সিন্ধু অধম জনর বন্ধু
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
লোকনাথ লোকেরা জীবানা
Lokena Lokera Jivana
লোকেনাথ লোকেরা জীবানা
Lokena Lokera Jivana
প্রভু করো দয়া দেহ মোরে পাদ ছয়া
Prabhu Kora Doya Devana Choya
প্রভু করো দয়া দেহ মোরে পাদ ছয়া
Prabhu Kora Doya Deya More Pada Chaya
এবে জগু ত্রিভুবানা
Suchi Bhuvana
এবে জগু ত্রিভুবানা
Ebeas Suchi Bhuvana
প্রভু পাদইল শরণ
Prabhupada Mila Sarana
জয় প্রভুপাদা জয় প্রভুপাদা জয় প্রভুপাদ
Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada.
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya, 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 Guru Deva Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine
Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, Vasyatya Sadarine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Sesa Sunyavani Paschatya Desatarine.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivraja Gachasta Tarasatara Shisha Shimanas Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mayapura Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to Shiguru and Shigaranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti. Namaste Saraswati Devi Purvani Pachanani. Nirvisesa Sunyavadi. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional source. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attached to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Gaura Premanandi ki jai. Hari Bol.